Different's great, but being different for the sake of being different, I'm not a big fan of, right? If you just want to be different for the sake of
technology, I would hide behind it.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.
All right, welcome everybody to the Master Connector Show. I'm your co-host, Rob Genovese, and I want to welcome you today. And hopefully you're tuning in every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, because we're always bringing you amazing guests. You know, Steve and I, Steve is the Master Connector, and, you know, our paths came together about 27 years ago. If you've never heard this story, we're two former shy guys, both introverts, both picked on as kids. Steve had to overcome learning challenges, whole host of things that actually make the foundation of a future winner. And that's Steve to a T today. You know, our paths diverged over time as we went our separate ways in business, but then came back together through networking, through connection. And that's the whole idea here on the Master Connector Show. We want you making great connections. We want you creating community, because we know this, everything, you know, through our experience, everything we have that's been very valuable has come from a relationship, maybe some collaboration. And so we're asking you to do the same thing. When you connect with people, but connect with people. Don't just make connections on LinkedIn or things like that. You know, you don't want to just do that, because that's not real connection. We're talking about relationships. We're talking about seeing what you can do with somebody. And this has been my path as a brand builder. Anytime I've done a collaborative effort, it's because I met somebody and so I thought maybe there's something we can do together, because maybe we hit it off really well, but we always see what the opportunity is between us. So I'm going to say this, we have a great show for you today. And this episode is sponsored by our friend, Russ Hedge. Thank you, Russ Hedge. Look, get in contact with Russ. He's going to help you transform your business. He's going to help you connect to new customers. Just head on over to our pal Russ's website, russhedge.com. His company, Russ Hedge Coaching Consulting, can help you get your business on the right track. Thank you, Russ. And I'm going to bring him up. Look, today, you know, even though we are former shy guys, we're not shy anymore, obviously, because we're doing a weekly show and we're connecting with people all the time. But we're still introverted. That's still an energy thing. It's still something that both he and I combat all the time. But, you know, we have come together on this show. And although we are Master Connectors, he's the Master Connector. So help me bring him on. Mr. Steve Spiro. Welcome, Steve. How's it going?
Absolutely. It's going great, Rob. And I was on a networking event yesterday with your pal and my pal, Mr. Cameron Toth, former co-host, and it was at a Westchester event. And yeah, you're right. I mean, when you're an introvert and you get done meeting a whole bunch of people, you're exhausted. So I was totally exhausted yesterday. But it was great seeing so many cool people, some friends, and many friends of the show, and it was pretty cool. But yeah, just appreciate you, sir. But hey, what's going on, friends? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. And you know, today's topic. And by the way, before we get to that, as Rob alluded to, get in the comments, connect with each other. We want to know where you're from, what city, what state. We want to know what you do. A great opportunity. This is the Connector Show, so obviously we want to have you connecting with each other. So if you're in the comments, number one, we know who you are, where you're from, and the other people that are also on the show watching can also see that, and hopefully you guys will connect and maybe even have a follow-up call after this, because I've learned in networking and connecting, the magic is in the follow-up. So, but yeah, today's topic is going to be on own it while you hone it. And in this episode, we're going to emphasize that everything you need to shine brightly is already within you, right? It's the idea that your journey can unlock your full potential, and it begins with recognizing and embracing your intrinsic strengths, right? I've got a lot of weaknesses, but I certainly have some strengths, right? You know, to truly thrive, it's crucial to identify and address any underlying fears, you know, biases and resentments that may be holding you back. You know, whether it's just self-acknowledgement, maybe reading some books, have a mentor in your life, or some therapy that I've had over the years, right? Either way, you got to get to a place where you feel good about yourself, and by doing so, you clear the path of authentic self-expression and can then focus on developing the confidence and communication skills necessary to radiate positively and connect meaningfully with others, right? And that's what it's all about today, right? It's the Master Connector Show. And just want to acknowledge real quick before we get into this, and I'm going to have you put in the hashtag Let's Go. Rob's going to be introducing our guest, but want to say, hey, what's going on, John Braden? Good to see you in the house, and our amazing loyal, community member Yolanda Chin in the house. Great to have you on here, making sure that they're checking in here. Obviously, Yolanda from Texas. And John, I think you're from Connecticut, but you got to have to tell us for sure. I believe that's what it is. But anyway, Rob, have Rob bring on our guest, and just type in "Let's Go," and exciting to have him introduce us.
All right, thanks, Steve. Like I was saying earlier, every week, again, you're going to be turning in. By the way, go to the masterconnector.show website. Go check out future episodes here. You're going to see some of the amazing guests we got coming up, and today is no different. I'm very excited to introduce Robin Hatcher. She's a communication expert who brings energy, excitement, and a touch of theatrical flair to her work. She has worked with and inspired thousands of individuals from Fortune 500 companies, including brands like UBS, Equitable, AllianceBernstein, and other prestigious organizations. She's a certified speaking professional, a certified neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, and an exactly what to say certified. So she adds science-backed insights and gravitas to her work. Robin is also a recovering actor, which means she knows how to captivate and command the stage. She's appeared on Good Morning America, The List TV, and many TV commercials. And if you watch closely, you might just catch a glimpse of Robin on reruns of Law and Order and Blacklist. Please welcome to the show, Robin Hatcher. Hey, Robin. Welcome.
Hey, Rob. How are you? Hi, Steve.
Great.
Hey, we got to ask you, Blacklist, right? Tell us about James Spader. What's going on? Is he
well,
I heard he's an interesting character.
He is an interesting character, and unfortunately, he wasn't in my scene. So it's like, we didn't get to meet, but I've met some other great people, and it was a great, great time. And I love the fact that, my literal nickname growing up was Shy. So we have a lot more in common than you would imagine.
Ooh, that's hard to believe about you, especially with your incredible background. So we're just blessed to have you on the show. And we're loved now when you have a resume, you could actually say Master Connector Show. You could say all these cool network TV shows, and now the Master Connector Show, right? So
of course. It's
well, we appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to dive right into it. So community, why don't you type in hashtag shine? We're going to talk a little bit about shining and being, shining your light. Obviously, it's a big part of what our mission is, to be the light. So Robin, here's the question, right? What mindset shifts are essential for tapping into our inner potential and shining brightly in any situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things is to know that it already exists within you. And what we have to do, it's almost like that, that story they talk about Michelangelo's David. It's like, the statue already exists. It's just what we need to chip away at in order to get at it. And some of the things that we need to chip away at are our upbringing, what people have said to us over and over again. And that has ingrained itself in our minds that create a script that keeps repeating itself over and over and over again, and so that script is one of the things that need to be rewritten. So how do we rewrite the script that other people have put into our minds so that we can then pull away those bad scripts and create a script that says, yes, this is me, shine. This is the real me. This is what I have to offer. Because the thing is, there is no one else like you in the entire world. It's like, literally, there is not anyone like you. Even with identical twins, there's slight differences in that DNA. So to realize that, and then to chip away at all of these stories, all of these bad scripts, create the script that aligns with who it is that you are, so that people can see and shine and connect with that.
I love that. It's interesting, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about overcoming, but I grew up picked on, bullied, right? All these things, right? And that started to create in my own mind who I was supposed to be, right? Was rejected, my mom was a working mom, and she also went to school. So I kind of felt rejected from her. I
Mhm.
felt all these things, and it just became who I was for a while. And then I get into martial arts, and basically they told me to shut your mouth, right? Because white belts, when you're getting the martial arts, they have no opinions and like all these things. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess nobody wants to know or needs to hear what I have to say, and I don't have any value. And it wasn't until there a lot of self-development and overcoming and just getting to have a better feel for I am valuable, like you said, right? We all are amazing. Every one of us is amazing, and we just need to believe that. And
Mhm.
sometimes it takes a bit of overcoming. So I want to, community, type in hashtag overcome, because we want to dig into this a little bit here. And so, Robin, how can we identify and overcome the fears, biases? I don't know if that's how you say it, but in resentments that
Yeah.
hinder our growth and potential, right?
Yeah. Step number one is recognize them. I call them the brilliance blockers, because what they do is they show up to try to block your brilliance. And the thing is, you want to recognize them and you want to get curious about them, but you also want to forgive them and learn to love them because their mission is really not to destroy you. Their brilliance blockers are there. They think that they're there to protect you. Because our brain is like I said, a lot of brain science, and our brain is built, it's like it wants to keep you safe. That's the main thing that your brain wants to do. And so it looks at the world and looks at what is going to protect you and what is going to harm you, what's going to help you, what's going to harm you. And so it creates these fears in us based on our history and our past. So a brilliance blocker can show up. Sometimes one of the biggest brilliance blockers that I like to name is that cultural or social biases. You're shy, you can't do that. You're an African American female, you shouldn't do that. You're a man, you should be able to do this or that. So that's one of the biases. And so it's put in our brain, and it's like, so the brilliance blocker will show up and say, oh, I'm sorry, you can't do that. And what we have to do is like, okay, thank you, brilliance blocker. I know you're trying to protect me from getting hurt, from being slammed down by being picked on again. But I understand that I need to do this. So I'm going to rewrite the script around that. So that's one of the brilliance blockers. One of the brilliance blockers is not outshining other people. It's like that's something that we're taught early on also. I had an older sister. It's like your older sister is the blank one and you are the other one. So I wanted to keep the faith. That's what people believed me to be. That's what I wanted to do. And so now to recognize them and say, thank you, brilliance blocker. You are trying to keep me safe and I'm okay doing X. Then we
Mm.
have to create that X that is so juicy and so wonderful and so needed that we go towards it and feel the fear, as we say, and do it anyway. And you've heard so many acronyms. Sorry, I can go on forever. But one of the acronyms that I love to use around fear, because all of these brilliance blockers are based on fear, right? And the thing is, we've heard all those acronyms around fear, but my acronym for fear is failure to envision an alternate reality.
Mm.
Failure to envision an alternate reality. When we're afraid of something, it's as if we cannot see the alternative. We cannot see what other possibilities are out there. And so one of the ways to combat those fears and combat those brilliance blockers is to envision a reality that may not match the script that's been written into your head.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Wow.
That when you talked about the whole idea behind brilliance blockers is brilliant itself. And as you're talking, I start to remember back as being a shy guy, right? That label stuck with me
Yeah.
so bad. So, you think because as a young person, you accept other people's opinions of you, especially when they're older than you, because you think they know more than you. And in
Right.
my case, my self image was so low that I knew everybody else was smarter than me. I
Right.
knew everybody else was better at their jobs than me. I knew everybody else was stronger than me, richer than me, everything. And I had to overcome a lot. It took me a long time, but the one thing I had to stop doing, it was very extreme. I had to just stop listening to everybody And if somebody would talk, I wouldn't be disrespectful, but in my mind, it would be like, maybe that's true for you, but not for me. And I would have to form my own thoughts and make my own decisions and make my own mistakes just so I can understand that I have the capability. So it was kind of a proving ground to myself for a
Yeah.
while. So I love that. But listen, audience, put questions in the comments. Robin's gonna, we don't have much time with Robin, and she's already given us so much value here. But put your questions in the comments if you have any for Robin. Help us clarify some things maybe you're stumbling on, and we'll get to them when we can.
Rob, it's so funny because what you just described, it just popped in my head. It's like you created a brilliance blocker. You know?
Love that. Love that.
And I didn't even know it.
It's true.
Exactly.
I love the idea of brilliance blocker. I didn't realize that, I was doing it subconsciously as well, right? Just being able to, when I speak on stage, I like to talk about the struggles and the challenges, because I believe, and we're talking cliches sometimes, right? Whatever's and kills you makes you stronger, right? And those kinds of things, right? I've learned, I am very blessed that I had dyslexia, because it gave me the ability to be a creative problem solver, to work my way around it. So I'm very thankful about those. But I want to dig into this a little bit, Robin. So let's talk steps. So hashtag steps community. And so we want to kind of give the community some action points, right? So what are some practical steps to cultivate self-confidence and effectively communicate our true selves? And I think you were starting to allude to it a little bit. I want to kind of dig in a little bit more on that, if we could.
Right. So the first step, of course, is recognizing your brilliance blockers. If you don't recognize, it's going to chase you down, and that's the thing. Is like a lot of times, it's like a lot of these aphorisms and things is like, oh, just think positive and just do this and just do that. They don't work because you have to see and look, that is a brilliance blocker there. It's like, why is it there? Start interrogating it. Get curious about it. And there's a phrase, it's not mine. What I love is to get curious before you're furious instead of furious. So get curious about where that brilliance blocker came from, what it's about, what it is trying to say, and possibly have a conversation with it. It's like, okay, thank you. So why is it that you're here? So once you've identified, once you've had that curiosity, once you've talked about it, then you start excavating, is what I call excavating the value that you may not be seeing. Because one of the things that happens is our brain has a negativity bias. So we're going to remember everything that went wrong, but we're going to forget all of the things that go right. And so one of the things that you want to do is excavate what the value is. And some of the ways that I help people do that is like, so think about things that you've done. What is the value that you're having to this job? And a lot of people will like equate their value with the job title or the job salary. And it's so much more about that. It's like, what do you bring to the workplace? What do you bring to that networking event? Are you the one that is always like having a great positive thing to say? Are you the one that goes around connecting people? Are you the one that is more optimistic? What is it that you bring to the workplace or to your friend group or to your organizations that you alone can do based on your unique qualities? And if you don't know, I have something that I call do a brand audit. Really reach out to at least 10 colleagues, friends, former mentors or former bosses or something, and think, when you think about me, what are the first 3 things that you come to mind? And you can do it anonymously. You can ask them right out and then really soak in that information, because we forget it. And we don't recognize the value that we have for other people. So excavating that value is the next step. And then the step after that is to learn how to communicate and radiate that value. So many times we think, oh, I can't, I don't want to sound braggy. That's the other brilliance blocker. I'm not gonna talk because it's gonna sound braggy. I'm gonna be that guy at the network. It's always talking about myself, And it's not about that, Talking about your value or communicating your value is about being able to help other people see you and see the potential that you could have in their own growth, in their own value.
Love that. That's great. I got to tell you, this is tremendous. We're so blessed to have you on here. Now John has a question, because a big part of our show is, stories. And so he's asking for a specific example, if you wouldn't mind. So I'd love to hear too.
Yeah, so one of my biggest ones being shy was, and I tell this often, I was sitting in my homeroom, my first high school. I had to go to high school, a different high school from the school I was raised in. So up until about 10 or 13, everybody in my family would call me Shy. That was my nickname. They would write Christmas cards. My mother would sign Christmas cards with her love, her daughter, and Shy was mine. So I'm sitting in a homeroom at high school, and I heard the loudspeaker announce an audition for a play. Now, when I
Mm.
was about 8 or 9 years old, here's another tip that you want to think about what you were like when you were about 8 or 9 years old, because that is an indicator of how you might step into your potential. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, my mother had enrolled me into an acting program
Mm.
because she thought it would help me get out of my shyness. Now, at the time, I wasn't ready. I couldn't own that part of myself as I sat in the class. But there was a part of me that started thinking, what if? What if? And so this freshman homeroom, there was an announcement at the loudspeaker that said there's auditions for the play at the boys' school down the street. And I started thinking, and I started reflecting back when I was 8 years old, and I started really experiencing the uncomfortableness of being in this shy straitjacket in a brand new high school where everybody was comfortable talking to each other. And it was just painful as all heck. And so I thought, how am I going to get out of this? And so I did something that was totally out of character. And this like light bulb came from up above the world and said, you're going to audition for this play.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, you're going to audition. And I didn't tell anybody because that was another thing that I thought I realized very early on. It's like instinctively, I guess. And this is something you need to know too. When you're ready to change, you don't want to share it with people too early because either one, they'll talk you out of it. It's like, oh, Shy, you can't do that. That's going to be so scary. Or they would say, oh, yes, that's going to work. And then either one of those responses would have kept me from going to that audition.
Mm.
So I really worked really hard and I put it all on myself. I wrote my own piece because I couldn't find anything in the library for a 13-year-old African-American girl at that time. So I wrote my own piece, go to this audition. I blow every emotion that I've been suppressing for those 13 years onto the stage, which allowed me to get cast in a very powerful play. And this is where I learned through the neuroscience of our brain chemistry. So when we are supposed to change, your brain doesn't like to change. It's
Right.
created this neural pathway. It's created this neat little neural pathway. Said, this is you, this is Shy, this is you. Wait a minute, everybody knows you as Shy. This is what you do. I don't want to change. But by auditioning, but by rehearsing this role, by acting as if I wasn't shy because I had to, because I was playing this powerful role as the Sphinx, I started other neural pathways started connecting. And then that neural pathway created this little tiny light place that I could walk down and say, okay, this is Shy Robin. This is another version of Robin. Sometimes I can go down this path. It's not as well worn. And sometimes I'll be drawn back into this path. And that's really what happened to start that journey down this other path that I can walk down whenever I choose.
I got to tell you that one concept, and although I never went into acting, as painfully shy as I was for a long time, by the way, into my 30s. So it wasn't just like when I was a little kid. I was painful in my 30s. And I just seem to go back to this time in sixth grade when I had to do this presentation in front of the class, like the worst thing in the world. Here, child, present in front of the entire class. Get up in front, stand there and watch everybody watching you.
Right.
And what I decided to do was, instead of presenting, I impersonated Abraham Lincoln because that was my report.
Ah,
And I think back and I go, why did that work? Because they applauded. I didn't wet my pants that time. Like, it worked out well. And it was that exact thing you're talking about. And that was a
yeah.
lesson that I learned so later on. And I'm talking probably my mid to late 40s is when things started to click for me, believe it or not. Way
I
later.
love that. I love that. And that's an exercise that I actually give to my clients, my coaching clients, because, and in my book, I have a book, Standing Ovation Presentations. And in it, I have excerpts from all different speeches, popular speeches, some film scenes that are very, very strong characters. And what I do is I have my coaching clients read as those words, because when you step outside of your own comfort zone, you can then start to feel the passion from those scripts and from that world, and then you start to incorporate it into your own life and your
Yeah,
own
I
life.
actually had to create a persona. And
Mhm.
there's a book called The Alter Ego Effect, and
Yes.
I had read an
Yes.
excerpt from it.
Yeah.
And I created an alter ego for myself because I was so afraid that I had to be not afraid to
Yeah.
be able to take chances. So I created an alter ego for myself that I would literally step into whenever I needed to do something that scared the heck out of me. And I'll tell you,
Perfect.
it worked like a charm. And still to
Yes.
this day, I don't use it as much, but every once in a while, I'll remind myself if I'm just a little hesitant to do something opportunity wise, I step into that persona and it's
Love it.
easy because it's not me.
Love it. That's another exercise I give. And if anybody's interested, I have a book called Your Leadership Vision, which has creating your own story. And I can share that with people. I don't have the link right now, but yeah.
We can get that to the community. We got a
Yeah.
couple questions. We're getting to like this time flies forever, but
I
really
know.
fast. But so Yolanda is asking a question. It's kind of a little bit back on earlier in the conversation, but I want to get to it. How do you strike a balance between confidence and arrogance? And we do have another question after that. So if you can keep it on the shorter side, so we can
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. The way that I see it is like confidence is sharing your value so that you can help another person. Arrogance is sharing your value so that you can overcome or lord it over another person. And that is the difference. When your intention is to share and to help, it's a completely different feeling and it's received a completely different way.
You're on the show because a big part of one of our pillars of our show is being others focused, being a go giver, and that's the heart of helping others, not just being self-absorbed, self-focused,
Exactly.
like many of us can be, and I was for years. So last question here, and then we're going to wrap things up. And so question, Robin, what role does self-acceptance play in your journey of personal growth? Again, we're getting at the end of the hour, half hour here, so but yeah, as best you
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
And as quick as
Yeah,
you
that's
can.
an excellent question. And it goes to the fact of knowing your individuality. And also what Rob was saying is like not believing other people's opinion of you. And your self-acceptance is like, yeah, I'm flawed. One of the things that I love to say in my speeches is you do not have to be perfect to make an impact. And so that's the thing. It's like if you can accept yourself as you are, you can still have an impact. And that's the goal, is to have an impact. Steve Jobs released the iPhone without it being perfect. And now we're 16 iterations in. It's probably still not perfect. There's still work. And that's why I say own it while you hone it.
Love it, love it, great stuff. Well, as we wind down here, what's the best way for the community to hear you? And we appreciate to reach you, I should say. We appreciate you being on here. But how can they reach you? And any final call to action there?
Yeah, my favorite platform is LinkedIn. So please connect with me, follow me on LinkedIn, and reach out, DM me if you have any questions. Like I said, I'll get Steve and Rob this booklet for you. And if you know anybody looking for a dynamic speaker, I'm your gal.
For sure, we appreciate you. Thank you. We're going to put you in the green room. But hope to see you. And if you can wait around a few minutes for us.
Right.
So
Awesome.
thank you.
I mean, that's good stuff right there, Steve. I mean, I wish I had known Robin a long time ago because it maybe wouldn't have taken me,
Seriously.
48 years to overcome some of that stuff. But look,
Seriously.
speaking of overcoming, everybody, look, Steve is a great example of overcoming, and you're going to want to, find out what, I heard this a long time ago. If you want to know how to be successful, read the thoughts of successful people. So you want to get Steve's book. I'm going to put it in the chat right now in the comments. Get Steve's book. He talks about some of the things he had to do to overcome to get to where he is today. And I know he's not even where he wants to be. He's got a journey like all of us do. But get his book. I highly recommend it. You'll learn something from it. And some of the greatest inspiration comes out of the people who had the greatest overcoming. So appreciate that.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. And next week, make sure you tune back to us again. Go to the masterconnector.show. Number one, if you want to be a sponsor of an episode like Russ has been over the last few months here, we'd love to see you, and also to see what the next episodes are. Next week, we're going to be doing episode 166 with Serve before selling with Steve Ramona. What an amazing man. You're going to not want to miss this. June 5th. Tune in for sure. Be there, be square. It's going to be amazing. But I just want to, close with some thoughts here, right? And, you guys might have know some of the story. I've heard it a little bit, but Colonel Harlan Sanders, the founder of Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? AKA KFC, right? Faced numerous setbacks through his life. He worked a variety of jobs from farming to operating a ferry boat before opening his own service station at the age of 40, right? So if you're a little older, listen, life is not over, right? You're just getting started at 40. It was there that he began serving his famous fried chicken, which quickly gained popularity. Despite facing rejection from numerous restaurants, Sanders persisted, traveling across the country to franchise his recipe. He owned his story of perseverance and determination, continuously honing, is the word, his recipe and business model. Today, KFC is a global fast food empire, and Colonel Sanders' legacy lives on as an inspiration to entrepreneurs worldwide. Remember, folks, everyone has a story. Let your story, let you and yours be a delight. See you next week.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.